When soil has loosely accumulated, forming a lip, there are many ways to remove these loose lips. If the buildup is severe to the point that you can easily detect them visually, it's likely you may require some degree of off-season renovation. If possible, it's best to catch loose lips before rain or irrigation has glued them in place. Tools like a leaf rake, push broom, backpack blower, or a power broom can take care of removing these lips.
If you're maintaining your lips properly on a daily basis, chances are most of the material in those edges is going to be loose and fairly easy to get back out again. And there's some basic tools that'll do that job very effectively, starting with a fall leaf rake, something with a broad tine on there that's flexible that can go in and comb that material out of the turf. Or you can use a stiff bristled push broom, typically a medium bristle. Plastic push broom works the best. Some people like to use a backpack blower, but my favorite tool to use in most cases typically is the power broom here that you see with a rotating broom on a weed whacker powertrain. Works absolutely fantastic at keeping lips out of those loose materials.
To remove a lip using a leaf rake, stand on the infield skin and pull the rake towards you at about a 45-degree angle. Your goal is to pull all the loose material out from the turf edge and onto the infield skin. Grass and clippings are bound to come out too. Don't worry about that. It's expected that a little grass will come out with the lip. Just make sure you don't dig into the infield skin too much. You don't want to create a drop-off or valley at the turf's edge, which can affect drainage. When you're done, rake up and remove the debris and pull some material back to the edge.
All right, with a fall leaf rake, remember we want something that's going to have a fairly wide tine like these have here and somewhat flexible. We're just trying to get this loose material that's stuck along this edge here that's been pushed up from the day's games and from the day's maintenance back out of that grass edge. So typically I like to go over everything twice, and I'll typically have my rake at about a 45-degree angle to that edge. All right, and I'll go in one direction, and then I'll turn around and cross-cut it and go in the exact opposite direction to make sure I get all the material out of there. And this, as you can see, it's very effective at pulling out that little bit of light material that's stuck here. We don't have too bad of ellipse on this corner here, so it's pretty effective.
This time, you'll want to stand on the turf side to remove a lip. From the turf grass side, sweep loose material out of the grass onto the infield skin. Just like using a leaf rake, you want to be careful that you don't sweep away too much material from the infield edge, creating a valley. Once the lip has been removed, rake up the debris and pull some infield soil or top dressing back to the edge to maintain a consistent surface area.
Another option for getting loose material out of your lips on a daily basis is using a stiff bristled broom, or this is a medium bristle, what they would call a medium bristle plastic broom. Fairly stiff, but still flexible enough that it's going to get in there and comb that material out from between the grass blades. So basically what you're going to do is start back just a little bit back from the grass edge and lightly push that material out. The denser your turf is, the tougher this is going to be to get this out. But it's still fairly effective. The taller the grass is as well is also going to create some problems.
Again, stand on the turf grass side and blow the loose material from the turf edge onto the infield skin. Make sure you control the power of the airflow and the direction it's blowing. This is especially true along the baselines, where you could move soil from one lip straight across to the other.
All right, another option for getting loose material out is using a backpack blower. And these are a little bit tricky. They work much better in shorter grass than they do in long grass. And you have to be careful because you'll really blow your top dressing away from your edges, so you have to make sure you pull that back afterwards. The other thing you have to be careful of is if you're doing on a baseball field, down the first to third base baseline, you've got a very narrow area there where there's dirt versus where there's grass. And we want to make sure we're not blowing the material from one side of the baseline over to the other, so you have to have a lot of good control of your airflow in that situation. Otherwise, it's just a matter of getting that volume up and pushing the material out.
There's one more tool that you can use for removing loose lips, the power broom. Once again, stand on the turf grass side and move the power broom along the turf edge. Like with the other tools, keep an eye on how much material is being removed from the edge of the infield. When you're done, just come back with a rake and bring material back to the edge to make sure you haven't created a valley or a drop-off.
All right, the final option for taking care of these loose lips where the material is still fairly loose in the edge is a power broom. And actually, it's one of my personal favorites. I think it does the best job of all these at getting the material out of those edges. But you do have to be careful with all these materials as you make sure that you're not creating a valley just beyond the grass edge and the infield dirt by pulling material out from there. And if you do, it's still all right. Just make sure you pull that material back in once you're done taking care of your lips. So let's take a look at how the power broom works.
A more established lip is really not that much larger than a loose lip. The difference is the material has become glued into the turf edge by rain or irrigation. For these established lips, you'll need a more aggressive approach. The options are using a sharpened iron rake, a dethatcher or verticut unit, or hydro washing the lip area. A sharpened iron rake might be the easiest way to remove an established lip, but the key is to use a T-head iron rake, not a bow-shaped rake. The bow adds spring and can make the rake bounce along, which will leave you with uneven results.
When choosing an iron rake to sharpen, it's important to pick the right type. And I have two of the more common ones here. A bow rake on my left, and on my right, or your left, this T-headed rake. Now, the difference is subtle, but it's significant. On the bowhead rake here, we have this bow back here where it connects to the handle. The problem with using these type of a rake when sharpening them and then using them in the field is that this bow structure here behind it tends to add some spring to the head. So when you take this and sharpen it and pull it along the dirt, it'll tend sometimes to bounce along the surface. That's not very desirable. So what I typically am going to recommend is a T-shaped head like this. As you can see, they got the handle and the head that forms the T-shape. And the other thing we like to look for is this curvature that you see here in the teeth, because as we sharpen this, we're going to sharpen a curved point here at the base. So it'll be a full curve all the way around. And that becomes important in making sure we get the right angle of the cutting edge after we've sharpened the teeth. So a T-shaped head is the best bet to get. Try to avoid bow-shaped rakes as they tend to bounce more. And make sure you get a curved tooth.
Ideally, the teeth of your iron rake will be skimming the infield and grass surface. To get that result, you'll need to sharpen your iron rake using a grinding wheel. Keep the teeth moving up and down continuously while you're grinding the lower third of each tool. Click the drawing to see the area you should grind down.
Okay, so we're gonna grind and sharpen the edge of this iron rake to make it more effective. And in order to do that, the easiest way to do that is by using an electric grinding wheel. Now, it's kind of critical as the type of grinder that you use. This one, the arbor sets in somewhat so that the wheel sticks out, and that's kind of critical because as you're sharpening, you're going to bring this rake across here. And sometimes there are some bench grinders where this housing comes out farther than what the grinding wheel is, and that'll get in the way of you as you sharpen your rake across here. So you want to make sure that this housing here is set back farther than what the wheel sets out. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this now, we're going to just sharpen this back edge of the rake down to the corner and put a nice sharp edge on these teeth one at a time. Always make sure you're wearing some kind of safety glasses to protect against pieces from flying out. Believe me, I've had it happen and it's not fun. Okay, so we've sharpened one tooth here and you can see the big difference. These are the way the teeth come when you buy them right off the rack at the hardware store. But here you'll see we've shaved down this one part. I don't know how well this camera's picking this up, but we've got a nice point here, a nice sharp edge, and that's going to dig into the turf a lot easier for digging out lips or using it to shave down clay on mounds. So, you know, if I try and do that with these rounded edges here with this rake, I'll be beating myself to death doing that. By sharpening this edge here, it makes it a much more effective tool, and you'll find so many different ways that you're going to be able to use this rake. Besides raking out lips and shaving down clay, there's just a lot of benefits to sharpening your rake and keeping it sharp. Once you've done this initial sharpening, it just takes a few seconds on that grinder to go back in and touch these edges up and make them sharp again. So always keep up on your maintenance on this rake, and it'll be your best friend because it'll do a lot of hard work for you without a lot of effort. All right, so now we've got all these teeth sharpened. You'll see that we've curved a little bit to add to the curve of the tooth, and that actually helps when it comes time to comb material out of the baseline. This curvature helps to get the tip at the right angle to shave that lip out. So now that we've got this ready, we can take this out to the field.
To remove an established lip with a sharpened iron rake, stand on the infield skin facing the turf edge. With your rake at a 45-degree angle, pull the rake through the turf. This won't require a lot of down pressure if your rake is adequately sharp. Once you have cut through the lip in one direction, come back in the opposite direction to cross-cut the turf edge.
All right, so the quickest and easiest way to knock down a small established lip, one that's been glued in by irrigation or by rain, is by using a sharpened iron rake. And as we showed you earlier, you know, if you get a rake that's brand new off the shelf, you're going to have a rake like this that's got a very blunt end. All right, they're curved. If I try and dig a lip out with this, I'll kill myself. It'll take forever to dig it out. But if we take it and sharpen it, like we just showed you, we have these nice sharp edges here. They'll go in and comb that really nicely. And the reason why we have these curled or curved teeth, and the reason I rounded and curved those is because the angle that you're going to use it at is going to have this so that the angle of the rake is just right to the point where that blade is literally just shaving it off, almost like you're shaving somebody's face. You'll see how this cutting edge with that curve that I've ground down on the back there, as I put it down at the angle, I'm going to hold this handle. These blades are almost horizontal to the surface, so the cutting edge is just literally going to come in and shave that lip right out from the grass. Now, when you do this, you're going to have a lot of clippings probably get pulled out at the same time. That's normal. So don't get all excited when you see clumps of grass coming out when you're using this sharpened iron rake to pull that lip out. But it is a very effective tool at taking care of those small established lips. Let's take a look. Okay, so when I use the sharpened iron rake, I'm going to do the same technique that I did with the fan rake, where I'm going to come at it at a 45-degree angle and cut going in one direction and then turning back around and cross-cutting what I had done earlier to make sure I get a nice flat surface. All right, we've got a very small established lip here. We're going to try and cut this out. The nice thing is with that sharpened iron rake, I don't have to put much down pressure on this at all. The sharpened portion of the rake does all the work. So I cut in one direction, now I'm going to come back and cross-cut it in the opposite direction. Okay, so we've cross-hatched this now, going in both directions. We'll just do a quick check with the field check. And beautiful, we've taken out that established lip really nicely. Again, we have this little bit of spoil here with the grass clippings. That'll easily be raked out here shortly.
You should expect a lot more debris when removing an established lip versus removing a loose lip. Use a field grooming rake to clean up the debris, but make sure you use a sweeping motion that will return some top dressing near the edge of the grass. After you have removed the spoils, use the feel method along the edge to double-check your work.
So once we've cleaned it out, we come back and we get all of our spoils out of here, just using a groom rake. At the same time that I'm pulling all my waste material out, I'm also pulling some of my top dressing back towards the edge, but obviously not throwing it into the grass. All right, so after we've cleaned out our spoils, we'll do one last check to make sure that this lip is obliterated and free, and we've got a nice change from the dirt to the grass. And as my field test checks it out, it's perfect. We've got a nice consistent grade change here. There's no no lip or anything where the ball's going to take a bad hop. Perfect.
With a dethatcher or verticut unit, the blades move on the vertical plane. By running one of these units along the turf edge, you'll loosen the lip. With the established lip loosened, come back with a broom, fan rake, blower, or power broom to push the loosened material and debris onto the infield skin. Clean up the debris and again, use the feel method to make sure the lip is gone.
Another method for taking an established lip out, one that's not too big, we're not talking about a big hump here, but smaller ones like you take out with a sharpener and rake. If you don't have that, but you have a dethatching machine or an overseeder or a verticut unit available, you can run a verticut unit or a dethatcher along this edge here where the lip is, and these blades here that operate on a vertical plane instead of a horizontal plane like a mower, they'll rotate this way and you'll set that setting so it'll go down into that ridge of a lip that's formed, and it'll help cut that up and loosen it. Then you can come back in here with a rake, power broom, sharpen iron rake, or any of those types of units, fan rake, and rake out the debris that this has kicked up and dug out from the lip that's existing sitting on there. Sometimes the lip's big enough you might have to go over it a second time to make sure that you get it all. Again, perform the field test every time after you've finished to make sure that you appear to have eliminated that lip.
After a soaking rain, an effective way to remove an established lip is to use water to blast them away. Standing on the turf grass facing the infield skin, squat down and aim a tight stream of water at the lip from a low angle. Keep the water stream moving side to side so you don't create a crater under the turf grass. Try to blast the lip away using as little water as possible.
Another effective way of controlling small established lips is by using water or hydro washing those materials out of the lip area, all right? And it works the best when we do it after a rainfall or after we've irrigated, because that irrigation water or the rainfall will soften up the soil that the lip is established in and will allow it to more easily be flushed out of the turf. So what we want to use is a hose, of course, with a nozzle. We don't want a lot of pressure on it. I don't want to be pushing out 100 pounds of pressure on this. So we'll back off on the water flow of this. Unfortunately, on this particular nozzle that I'm using, I can actually control the gallons per minute I'm pushing out, anywhere from 5 gallons per minute up to 40. I'm going to take it down to as low as possible, with a 5 gallon per minute mark, because I don't want to flood this infield with water. I just want to have enough water to push this material out of the lips. All right. So, and what else might work well is you can take hook up a garden hose, use an adapter to your quick coupler, and hook up a smaller size hose so you do have less volume of water coming out. And just using a garden hose nozzle, that'll help cut down on the volume of water you're using, and to a certain extent, helpfully help to control the pressure that's using as well. As you can see, we're not pushing out a lot of water here. But we're pushing out some pretty good top dressing that's gotten stuck into these edges.
At the base of the turf grass plant is the crown. When hydro washing a lip away, you may expose the crown of the plant. If your field has cool season grasses like bluegrass or ryegrass, you should only hydro wash on cloudy or cooler days. Exposing these tender crowns to the sunshine in the heat of summer could cause the plant to go under stress, resulting in brownouts. Weather is not a big deal if you are performing a hydro wash on warm season grasses, such as Bermuda grass or zoysia grass.
As we push this material out of the grass, sometimes we might be exposing the crown of the plant, the grass plant, which is the white creamy portion right down at the base. And we don't want to do this kind of an operation during the heat of the summer in June, July, and August. We don't want to do this on a sunny day because those crowns of the plant are going to be very tender. And when we expose those to the sunshine and the intense heat, it can cause the grass around the edge here to brown out or go under stress for a while. So if you have to do it during the hot part of the year, make sure you pick a cloudy day where it's somewhat cool and you're not getting that direct burning sunlight on there. During the early parts of spring and early summer, or as we get into fall, you can do it on a sunny or a cloudy day. It's not going to be as critical as the temperatures will have cooled off, and it won't be as damaging to the turf.
If you're battling a severe lip, you'll need to plan some off-season renovation. Severe established lips cannot be dealt with through daily maintenance. This topic will be covered in more advanced 200-level sessions. Now, try this pop quiz to be sure you know what you need to know with removing and preventing loose or medium established lips.